Disclaimer: this is an imagination written by author's perspective. It has nothing to do with real life. It's only for entertainment purpose. I own the storyline and narration, so please don't copy and repost my work. Thank you. Jungkook, you don't deserve to be a mom. Useless. Of course, you also agree that because of your mistake, you lost your baby, but you almost recovered from that incident. But Jungkook again pushed you in that dark incident. You agree that you made a huge mistake, but that doesn't mean Jungkook will say such things to you. You didn't do anything intentionally. It was just an accident. In that accident, you both lost your little one. He's saying that you don't deserve to be a mom. But why? Yes, because of your little mistake, you lost your baby, but you didn't have any idea about it. You are also a mother, and you are also feeling bad for your loss. He show you his index finger and make you stop from talking further. Jungkook, Jia, let's go to the hospital. He said to his sister, and she nodded with teary eyes. Jungkook picked Lucky in his arms and they were about to exit from the main door, but your voice stopped them. Wine, wait, I'm also coming, teary eyes. Jungkook, it's better if you don't come with us. Just stay here without creating any scene, he said in angry tone, and you again started feeling pain in your heart. Then they left for the hospital, and here you are just thinking about his words. Did he really mean that? He never said anything to you about your miscarriage, but today he just crossed his all limits. This is what he thinks about you. Today he say everything in anger. That means he was blaming you for your miscarriage, but all this time he was just doing acting for your mental health. All this time, when you were facing depression, he always told you that it's not your fault, but now he just changed his words and say that you don't deserve to be a mom. You were thinking about all this and you were crying like a baby. Today, no one is beside you to console you. You cried continuously, and then your head started hurting because of crying, and your breath became uneven. At the hospital, Jungkook and Jia both are waiting outside and Lucky is inside. His treatment is going on. Jia is crying continuously and Jungkook is consoling her. Jungkook also called his mother and told her everything. After a few minutes, Mrs. John come towards Jungkook and Jia. She is sweating badly because she come here in hurry. Mrs. John, Jungkook sweating. Jia, we don't know mom. Actually me and Jungkook both went to supermarket to buy groceries and when we come back home we saw that he's laying on the floor and blood were coming out from his forehead. Before Mrs. John can say something, doctor come out from the room and everyone went towards him. Jia, doctor, how's my son? Tell me everything is alright? Teary eyes. Jungkook, yes, doctor, is he alright? Everyone was asking him continuously, and didn't give him chance to speak. Doctor, don't worry, he's fine. Smile. Mrs. John, doctor, can we beat him? Doctor, sure, but right now he's not conscious. But don't worry, he'll wake up in some time. After saying that, doctor left from there. Everyone entered inside the ward and see Lucky, who is sleeping on the hospital bed. Everyone's eyes became teary after looking at him like this. Gia went towards him and kissed his forehead. Mrs. John and Jungkook also went towards him. Mrs. John, don't worry, Gia, he's fine now. So, dear, don't cry. Worried. Gia, but mom, I can't control my tears. Crying. Mrs. John, I can understand Gia. Then Mrs. John looked at Jungkook and then she remembered about you. In all this incident, she didn't notice your presence. Then she decided to ask about you from Jungkook. Mrs. John, Jungkook, where is Vian? I didn't saw her. She asked him and Jungkook widened his eyes and then he remembered about you. Gia also looked at Jungkook and Jungkook was trying to avoid his mother's eyes. Mrs. John, what happened, Jungkook? Tell me, where is Vian? Confused. Jungkook was about to say something, but before that, Lucky woke up and said something. Lucky, Mama? Everyone's attention went towards him. Gia, yes, baby, Mama is here. Teary eyes. Mrs. John, Lucky dear, are you okay? Jungkook, how are you feeling, Lucky? Worried. Lucky slowly nodded his head. Lucky, I'm fine, Mom, he said weakly. Gia, baby, how this all happened? How you fall from stairs? Lucky, me and Auntie Vine, we both were watching cartoons together. And then she went to washroom and told me not to go anywhere without her. But I didn't listen to her and when I saw your car from window, I come downstairs. Jungkook, when I was coming downstairs, I was running on the stairs and then I fell. After that, I don't remember anything. Now Jungkook is feeling guilty because he blamed you for this. Mrs. John, Jungkook, tell me where is Vian? Lucky, yes, where is Auntie? Jungkook looked at Gia and then Mrs. John. Jungkook, she is at home, shuddering. Mrs. John, but why are you shuddering, Jungkook? Don't tell me that something happened between you two. I'm your mom and I can clearly tell that something is wrong. That's why you were avoiding my question. Mrs. John, Jungkook, tell me what happened. Jungkook looked at her with teary eyes. Jungkook, actually, mom. Then he told everything to her. What he said to you, how he shouted on you, and whatever he said to you. He told everything to his mother, and she can't believe that Jungkook can say these hurtful things to you. Mrs. John, Jungkook, don't you have shame? How can you say this to her? You know that her condition is already very serious, and you hurt her like this. Without knowing anything, you shouted on her, angry. Mrs. John, this is how you treat her. I didn't expect this from you. I know because of her silly mistake you lost your child, but she also loves that child. She carried that baby in her womb. Mrs. John, she is also suffering, Jungkook. She is also going through this. Then how can you say this type of things to her? How can you say that she don't deserve to be a mom? Jungkook, I'm sorry, mom. Teary eyes. Mrs. John, say sorry to her. She must be crying alone. You leave her alone in this condition. You know that she got panic attack, but still you leave her alone. Mrs. John, now take me to her. She needs someone beside her. Jungkook, Okay, mom, Mrs. John. Gia, stay with Lucky. I'm going home for some time. Gia nodded, and Mrs. John and Jungkook both left for the house. Time skip. Jungkook and Mrs. John reached home and then they both entered inside. But what they saw made them shocked. They saw you unconscious on the floor.